our student having to study on a tree.
Among them, for example, is to include the history of Sabah in the formal education.
Our access problem is 5 times more serious than national education.
Hello Internet, welcome to another episode of Kopitiam Council with Hafiz and Adi, coming to you straight from American Corner here at Sabah State Library. If you ever wanted to, start your own podcast, share your ideas through media, the new media what we have right now, this is a perfect space for you because the American Green Corner provides everything you need: mics, lights, cameras, all set up and ready for action. This initiative is about to empower young citizens like you and me to educations in media creations. And we're excited to be hosting this special episode. So book your space at the American Green Corner at the Sabah State Library.
So we are here at the American Green Corner because we are in collaboration with the Sabah Action Body Advocating Rights NGO, also known as SABAR, as we embark on the second episode of a special 8-episode podcast series titled Voices to Action, which will be going on for this is episode 2, I believe, because we'll have about 6 more to go. So over the next few weeks, we'll be diving deep into some of Sabah's most pressing issues from education, healthcare, and public infrastructure, and good governance. Each episode features experts sharing their insights and perspectives for the challenges we are facing today and for the road ahead.
But the conversations, unlike any other podcast, even, the most famous podcast on earth, doesn't have what we have. Because after the podcast, SABAR and their partners will publish key takeaways in newspapers and open up discussions so that you and I can have a public input. You have the chance to share your views, suggest solutions, and be part of the change through online platform and town hall. Good ideas, recommendations will be compiled into a report, submission to the government and political leaders for considerations, adoption, and implementations, because your voice matters. So stay tuned and let's turn voices into action and shaping Sabah future together. Adi?
With that said, we are very happy to introduce our 2 strapping gentlemen guests here today. First, I would be very honored to welcome Dr. Muhammad Hanafia bin Muhammad Kasim, a distinguished legal and public service professional. He holds an LLB from the University of East London and has served as a senior state counsel in the Sabah State Attorney General's Chambers for nearly 2 decades. His expertise in governance and finance has led him to key roles, including Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Finance and currently as the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation.
And on the far right over there, we have Professor Vincent Pang. He is hold honors in first class in physics in University of Technology Malaysia, masters in applied research and education at the University of East England in UK, and PhD in educational evaluation and MIT University in Australia. He is also a chairman board of governors at the College of Sabah, and also honorary professor, Faculty of Education and Sports Studies, University Malaysia Sabah. Welcome to both of you.
All right. So today we are going to be talking about education, particularly autonomy of education for Sabah here. So I'm going to turn to the legal expert here, Dr. Hanafia. So
Right.
the Constitution was amended back in 2021, which incorporated MA 63, the Malaysian Agreement, 1963, into the Federal Constitution of Malaysia. How has this development advanced the rights of Sabah in regards to education?
Well, this is actually in coordination with the Sabah State AG Chambers. When I consulted with them, what's the impact to these amendments? It's basically a reaffirming back to the actual position of MA 63 back into the Constitution. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in 1988 there were some amendments which we among legal fraternity see it as a departure from the original MA 63. But now this new amendments is basically putting back where we are supposed to be, which is a good thing. Well, the one of the impact in this reaffirming. That means Sabah has more access towards towards the in getting involved into framing the state national policy on in this regard is pendidikan, education. We are involved in the policy level, and also for example, the recent I should say is an ongoing autonomy pendidikan platform under MA63. We have had our first wave of requests from the federal government. It turned out to be very positive. Among them, for example, is to include the history of Sabah in the formal education. There was some concern during negotiation. The federal side was saying if Sabah is asking, there will be another states asking the same thing. So we were negotiating for at least in regard Sabah Sarawak, you need to bring in the formation of Malaysia. So there will be more awareness among administrators, and in fact both private and public sectors, because there are much to share actually. Some of the planning for Sabah and Sarawak are not actually in accordance to where the landscape of Sabah and Sarawak. So partly due to the awareness issue on what is Sabah and Sarawak is under the formation of Malaysia. So now the awareness is increasing positively. We are very grateful for that. It makes our negotiation easier. We don't have to explain to them the background too much. Of course, but there were a key, some of the highlights of this amendment. The state agency highlighted Article 161A, for example. This has the impact on redefining what is indigenous people in Sabah, actually. There were some changes, as you know, Bumiputra are not really the same because we have our own history on native. Just a quick history. The land ordinance and our state constitution are one of the principal legislation to capture the special position of natives in Sabah. It started off during the colonial days when the Queen's Charter has directed at that point the disputes is more centralized on land ownership, where natives was treated as a trespasser in land because of the lack of understanding on the way customary land ownership works, like shifting cultivation as we know them, researchers call them. The Queen's Charter has the legal strength of a Queen's Charter is the same like the Constitution today, which is the highest law of the land. And any legislation that does not make any regard to this provision on the highest law will be susceptible to be declared as null and void, as they are unconstitutional. So the Queen's Charter emphasized on the land ownership, and the land ownership is from there. Every legislation in Sabah, land ordinance, forest enactment, they all incorporated special procedures when dealing with natives' occupation in land. So they are not to be treated as a normal trespasser as we know it. So they need to be investigated for any extinguishment of rights exercise can be carried out. So they are, and mind you, our state also has the Native Interpretation Ordinance. If I'm not mistaken, Sabah alone has about 40 rumpun. Each one of the native rumpun ini, they have their own culture. So all this need to be understood. And I've done some research and on how before they opening up a land, there's some rituals for them to do. From this suku is different, another rumpun is different. So they're all evidence-based and facts-based to be investigated by the authorities before doing any extinguishment exercise on the rights. So this is the 161A is one of those like the Chitra on the formation on including syllabuses on formation of Malaysia in formal education. these are one of the positive, what do you call it, development since the autonomy pendidikan MA63 is being pursued. And of course, in general terms, the amendment strengthens Sabah Sarawak's position to get into to do what we call it intervention towards federal plannings on education for Sabah. So that currently it's just a first step. There are a lot of other mechanics for us to pursue, and how to, including well, by the word autonomy itself, the federal government can also give total delegation to that power education to Sabah Sarawak. So that all that is provided for under the constitution. So it depends how we prefer to have a very cordial negotiation, a very healthy relationship between federal and state. I think it works best that way. So in many words, this amendment is very significant for Sabah, both Sabah and Sarawak for that. It may be fairly, what do you call it, although it's done in 2021, between Sabah and Sarawak, I've been to this ministry about 1 year plus. We need to structure our ministry with more engagement with local educational institution, so that we'll have more data to understand the Sabah educational landscape. Without the data, we can't actually have a very competent plan for it. Luckily, like as I said, the exercise of autonomy pendidikan MN63 platform is being done in phases. So we are in our first phase. There will be more new requests lah, to put it mildly, from the state to the federal government. Yeah.
Is it safe to say, because when I was studying sejarah,
Okay.
it was completely omitted MA63. There was so much emphasis on 1957 Merdeka for Malaya.
Yeah.
In those spaces, right, will we see soon, in the near future, MA63 finally taking a primary position in the sejarah textbooks?
Yeah, that's the whole point. In fact, awareness is very important, because many episodes, when it comes to proposal from the state, the reason of accepting or rejecting is not premised on these principles. So we don't mind a proper rejection. We don't mind. We of course, even approval will be hoping to be a very competent approval. Otherwise, the understanding is different. So the awareness is key. It has to start from the basic educational level. Even government servants now, they have to be familiar with the history of formation of Malaysia. It's one of the exam being introduced. So you're talking about, but of course we're not dealing with only public sector. Even private sector needs to know this, because when they come in, sometimes they come in with the backup of a federal ministry. So that is, we don't want them to miss. Basically, we want a smooth sailing, a negotiation on track, rather than qualified approval, qualified approach, which in the end we're risking loss of time, we're risking unnecessary spending of budget, not on target, things like that. Say simple, for example, if I can just relate to one. Federal has many programs for Sabah, both public and government programs, and also private sector. But when they introduce that program to Sabah, many times Sabahan are disqualified at the application stage. When you look at the application stage, meaning there are requisites there for your qualification to join the program, you got struck out at that point. Before you even go on like for example in innovation world, pitching, before you can have the opportunity to pitch your innovation. So when I start looking into it, is things like cash flow, what's your pendapatan. I mean, they cannot equate us to generally in Semenanjung punya itulah financial means kan, on average. So small things like this, but it's not just private citizens. For one, I come across even government subsidies to G2G subsidies to state also face the same what I can call a mismatch of qualification lah. I wouldn't say unfair, but in the end the impact is the same. Sabahan is not benefiting from that subsidies or program. So, and then it took about years before they make changes. So you can tell the lost years, we stand to lose.
All right, that we are clear with the legal framework now and autonomy more to empower Sabah State government. I want to bring in Prof. Vincent over there. You are on the ground, you with touch with UMS, and then it's pointless if we have very good legal framework, whatever, but access to quality education is some sort of limited. So what do you think the key challenges in, especially, from your experience, from where you are right now, particularly those who are in rural areas and serve communities?
Okay, Hafiz, there are many challenges affecting the access of quality education in Sabah, especially those in the rural areas. The main constraint is the geographical factor. With this distance far from the policymakers and the decision makers in Semenanjung, many other things are going to be affected. To see how serious is the access difference, according to the World Bank report 2000 last year, which shocked many people on our performance. Our access problem is 5 times more serious than national average. 20% of our people do not have school access, secondary school access within 5 kilometers, whereas only about 5% people in general in Malaysia don't have access. So the problem is 5 times more serious. So because of geographical factor, a lot of things are affected. For example, tempat berbukit berkawi, making children going to school very difficult. That also contribute to dropout rates and so on. Next is distance to school. People need to walk very far, especially in the rural areas, to schools. So again, it affects the motivation of children attending schools. Also, this geographic factor also contribute to some policy implementation matters. For example, in places like Semenanjung, people can take part in national events easily without much spending. But in Sabah, I think if you open newspaper last year, we have a few cases of schools qualified to enter national finals, but the children are not able to attend because of air freight problem. So again, quality of education is very much affected by that. Next is because of geographical factor, infrastructure issues are involved. We do not have, for example, classrooms which are as good as those nearer to big cities, nearer to Trajaya, for example. Also, the access to digital technology. You remember during COVID, there was one case of our student having to study on a tree. I think her name is Viviana. She has graduated end of last year, with a degree in marine science, and she's now pursuing degree in medicine. So you can imagine how many more Viviana were there in Sabah. This Viviana is firm, is strong. So she was able to overcome all this. There are definitely a lot of other people who could not overcome the challenges.
Yeah, picking up on that, Prof, because I'm trying to see if I can unite both practitioner and educator here when it comes to providing education for people in the rural areas. Because in the last episode, we did mull about this, is that where the state is difficult for them to enter and where private education providers are not incentivized to. There was this conversation where it's NGO or community-led that has to push for providing education in very remote parts of Sabah. So this brings back, when I thought you mentioned moving the autonomy from federal to state. How about also from state to local government as well, when we're trying to combine talk about autonomy, but also in terms of delivering quality education to people. So,
When you mention local government, they are more on various aspects of development, but the projects still have to be originated from, currently pendidikan and Institut Pengajian Tinggi is just being gazetted under my ministry, so it has to originate from us. Now, hearing what our prof has mentioned tadi, it's fair enough that it's been the landscape, but there's a lot has going through changes the last 1 year, especially. For example, the internet connectivity. The state government has started looking into the installation of Starlink. About 300 location, but that's only the first wave. There's going to be more. Looking at Sabah's landscape, Jendela program is picking up, although there's some delay there. But the Starlink was introduced to reduce the delay impact on Jendela. Like I said, 300 location is only the first phase. Looking at Sabah landscape, the terrain and everything, as you mentioned, there will be more Starlink coming in. And the focus, MCMC also have their own initiative to this. The target is of POP, they call it, in schools. Now, internet connectivity is progressing healthily, although we want it to move faster. I think many schools are now enjoying a high-speed connection. Some fine-tuning to do, I understand that. We are auditing some of the efficiency. But in terms of, like you said, the funding side of the school, our ministry is receiving a number of school requesting for sponsorship for air freight, going to hackathon, going to various educational program nationally or even internationally. So we have sponsored some. Under this RMK 13, one of the emphasis is on pendidikan. So we aim to get more budget on this. But at the same time, we are getting the school to start, generating its own fund. We're trying to create all this ecosystem, a number of programs in the pipeline, so that not too much dependency on the government budget. So it's the emphasis here is the development on the focus area. You see, there's two main issue I'm looking at. Number one is the education itself. Sabah has only half of its current youth has SPM graduates, and the other remaining 50% do not have any SPM at all. That's the first issue. Probably one of the problem is already highlighted lah, school, the location, the distance, but on that aspect, the government has introduced a number of subsidies and support in terms of even transport. My minister has introduced those, and the state has approved them. Quite a serious budget for this, supporting traveling for our students. And the second aspect of it is it's to do with the arrival of Industrial Revolution 4.0, which has been announced by MOSTI about a year plus now. You're looking at, if I remember the figure correctly, is about 69 million jobs as you know it today. this is global, will migrate to about 189 million new jobs based on STI. So when I look into Sabah, we have only 4 years to achieve that number. When I look at Sabah's readiness, I learned that science population in school is only 10 to 11%, which is not enough. The Dasar National is 60% science, 40% arts. Since Merdeka, we never seem to achieve that target. But Sabah is worse here. You're talking about 11% or so. Now, that's why we have introduced a lot of program, a STEM program as you call it, to get the students to be interested in science. You see, it's partly the data that comes to us partly is a psychological, because science appears to be very difficult and not stream to pass, especially at maths and all that. So we have to overcome this psychological factor by introducing STEM. You need to have them interested in science in the first place. So this is ongoing. A lot of enhancement coming in. We are collaborating internationally actually as well. Things like we're bringing NASA astronauts to come over and see our students, these are existing NASA astronauts. So we're working together with our strategic partners in MOSTI for this. So this is to generate the percentage we need. But looking at the timeline and the industrial aspect of it, industry cannot. Our target group here are students still in sekolah menengah, and some of them in primary school. And primary school will take 6 years, and IR 4.0 is coming in 4 years, 5 years. So time is not with us. So a number of strategic approach to at least cushion the impact of the arrival of IR 4.0. What I mean by cushion and impact is, while we are trying to get the students to be interested in science, industry has no luxury of time. Industry have to start adopting all this IR 4.0, artificial intelligence, robotic, autonomous machinery and all that. Otherwise, we lose out on potential investors to come in here. Take, for example, a very high-tech ship trying to dock into our primitive jetty, for example. So they will end up passing by Sabah and go to Kalimantan, sorry, I can't stop here, I go to Indonesia or Sarawak even. So we will be on the losing side. So industry will not wait. They have to bring in. The problem here is the warga kerja. So like I said, our kids are still in school. It will take maybe 10 years. So what we are doing right now, we're looking into some of the, we are looking into the TVET group, the vocational group. We have a number there, but although it's not there yet, the problem with them is the current batch doesn't have any very highly education achievement. Most of them are Form 3 leavers and Form 5 leavers before. But because the experience is very valuable now, 20, 30 years experience, they can surpass any degree holder's expertise on this. So actually, they are very high demand now globally. So these are very. The state government has just approved the formation of Majlis TVET for Sabah. We will coordinate to various ministry. Will have this program. So this population of TVET and everything will be our strategy to meet up the arrival of 4.0 while our students are, but we, like I said, the percentage wise is not so encouraging at the moment.
Yeah.
We need to do better. In terms of this distance between school and housing, yes, I noticed that myself. Looking at Long Pasir, for example, I've seen kids in the jungle at 6 p.m. What are they doing there? They're just walking home. It's so far waiting for anyone hitchhiking. So we are planning to do more hostels for them so that they don't have to go back to their house. Our hostel will be very near the school. This is in the pipeline, so to ease off that issue.
Talking about time constraint with the arrival of IR 4.0, Prof here, if I can bring you in, is that politicians in India for the last 5 years talking about, because India is one of the youngest country in the world, so they correlate youngest age with national security, which is if these kids are not guaranteed education, proper education, access to education, quality educations, they will turn into the enemy of the states. You can so-called like, they become, whatever that you want to call it.
Yeah.
We draw this similarity. Sabah, we have stateless and undocumented children.
Yeah.
So, what type of policy that we can craft and then, and can be implemented to ensure that they can be part and integrated into society better, especially in Sabah?
Hafiz, you have raised something very important, which many people are avoiding to talk about, which is, I think it's very good that this is raised here. I think in general, people should be more open about facing what we are facing now, especially involving stateless and undocumented children. According to the 2020 census, we have 800,000 undocumented and stateless people.
Really?
Yeah. So today, 5 years later, I think we can more or less project to close to 1 million. This cannot be just this cannot be just ignored, because they are living with us. We cannot say because they are not citizen, therefore blah blah blah. If we don't make good education out of them, as you said, there'll be some social issues, even security issues, and it's very common for people to blame the past administrators and so on. But what is more important should be what can we do from now onwards. So we cannot change the fact that they are already here. Therefore, education is definitely the best option to make them useful here. I also want to bring in some legal framework. Actually, Malaysia signed the Convention for the Right of Child. Meaning children should be given the right to education. Unfortunately, our Akta 550, Akta Pendidikan, I think if I'm not mistaken, 39A, says compulsory education for citizens. So for non-citizens, there's a fees involved. There are a few sharats involved. Among the syarat, I think one of the parents has to be a Malaysian, and there are a few others. Must be documented. Higher school fees, and working status or residential status of parents in the country. So only people who have fulfilled this are able to enroll in our school system. Something must be done. Fortunately, we have a lot of kind-hearted people in Sabah. There are many alternative learning centers or ALCs run by various agencies, even government agencies, NGOs, individuals, religious groups. They are the ones who provide education to this group of unfortunate people. Being self-funding among all these groups, finance is a main issue. So therefore, you can imagine the quality of education provided to these children compared to people from the mainstream schooling system. There's another group of people who are slightly more fortunate, who are given education through CLCs, community learning centers. Most of these CLCs are partially supported by embassies. They involve children in the plantation, parents in plantation industry, mainly Filipinos and Indonesians. Maybe if we think about legal framework, maybe we need to consider 29A, whether it should cover everybody and not just citizens. We should also have a more comprehensive registry of schools. Now, if you ask for data, you can only get data from government schools. data about all this education for undocumented is really scattered, and there's no way you can get comprehensive data. So we need to be more inclusive when we collect data on all these people, although don't belong to mainstream.
Is there any solution that you think we can implement tomorrow? At least from your stand, you are in the UMS.
It's difficult to do this in a very short term, but as I said, I think legal framework is the most logical way or most realistic way of working on it.
If I can add, the immediate one ongoing right now is we're working with, through our agency, SSTC, we're working with ILO. It's a pilot program in Davao now for plantations. Working together with UNESCO to provide courses for children of the plantation workers. So they will be accredited from the courses. So when they go back home, that skills is also is going to be accepted in Indonesia or Philippines. So if this works, we'll be increasing more. This is just one aspect. Our sister ministry, Kebajikan, is also working on a plan to handle. But ultimately, looking at just my quick perception on the amendment of 29 to include the illegals and all that, I think we have a serious problem on funding. I think that's the concern by the government. Just to give you some idea what it means, I just went into this climate change summit. Apparently, we have a new, what they call it, climate crisis. They call it human migration. It's already happening in India, I think. I remember asking one of the Indian citizen next to me during the summit, what number are we looking at? 1,000? Is that huge? 20, 30,000? He kept saying huge. So that number means a lot. Now, Sabah, as you know, we have this boundary issue for a while now. So that's the key, is to control the boundary so that we can cater for the number that's already in here, It has to be moving towards that way. Otherwise, it's a moving target. This is what the federal government is worried about, maybe more on funding, because we're trying to focus our funding for locals now. This one of the challenge that we are facing. But like I said, what's on the pipeline now is the UNESCO program. Hopefully they can go far. Yeah.
But this issue, maybe when considering funding, people may think that this is less of priority because they are not citizens. But it's affecting every one of us. If you drive along any jalan, nighttime traffic jam, people will be knocking on your window and asking you whether you want to buy this, buy that. They are very young kids. What if we give them good education and make them contribute to our economy?
So when it comes to
Good investment.
then financial sustainability is one thing, but public perception as well.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to manage the public's expectations. Why we providing for people so it's the sense of also collectiveness, and collective identity from Sabahans is also the issue.
Also affects our tourism industry.
Yes. So it's more of it's also a social issue.
Yeah.
Because it is a financial issue.
Yeah.
So on that note, I want to go back to the autonomy part, Dato'. Because we talk about in the Constitution, Article 76A, which is delegation of federal powers to states, right? So the Parliament can pass a law allowing Sabah State Legislature, Mundun, to enact laws on education matters, even though it is under the federalist.
Yeah.
So, but this delegation is not permanent. Parliament can revoke it at any time. So, can we find a way to, is this part of the negotiation process with federal government? And can this be used, applied to the context that a prof has talked to us about?
Well, yes. For a start, the provision is it's a mechanics provided by the Constitution on certain in the event that it's better to give it to Sabah to handle it. So like you said, the 76A is federal government authorizing our state legislative to enact that laws. You see, about the risk of being that authorization being revoked or not, there's a process for it, because just imagine the moment we have the authority, we will be spending money towards it. So any attempts to revoke it will have to take that into account. It cannot be done immediately. So there will be a transition for it. Now, what's more important to look into is our readiness to take up the responsibility, the capacities, the maturities. Even that can be worked out with all the available experts from the federal. They can always come in as an assistance at that point. But this also means once it is under state, the possibility for us to get grants, for example, from the federal government budgeted for us, is all in the menu. So I would, of course, this provision is there. We need, before we invoke it, before you use it, we need to have a very competent study and readiness for it, and then frame certain items for us to negotiate with the federal, how to accept the handover and all that. So basically, that's what 76A is, to get the authority. There's another provision on delegation itself. That is through authorization, and you worried about the revocation, and I have explained it's not going to be that easy. Yeah. But 95C, like what happened, we already invoked that provision for our ECOS, the Tenaga now. We have our own Tenaga. That is completely under the state control now. But the real concern here is whether they will agree. So the word given to me is it can be a political impediment, or it can be institutional resistance towards it. So it's about being confident with each other, I suppose. Yeah. So that's it. Yeah.
Right, Prof. We talk about stateless children, and we talk about the maturing access to quality education. So what is the right strategy, if there's any, in your point of view, to create a conducive ecosystem, especially in remote indigenous community? Because we need to emphasize on this remote, because we are talking about Sabah here, right? If we are in Selangor, that would be a different matter. So what is the right recipe, if there's any, in your point of view?
Okay, Hafiz. In education, there's a term called contextual learning. Contextual learning means we let children learn based on the context that they are living in. For example, if they are fishermen's children, we should bring in examples of fish, nets, wave, the sea. But if you look at our textbook, we don't have this thing. Our textbooks examples are about cars, books, apples, oranges. So you cannot do contextual learning by many of the examples that you can find in current books. One, curriculum should be more inclusive, should be more culturally inclusive. That means I should relate to the culture of the Borneo people, Sabah people. That is one. Number two, there should be more community involvement in policy planning and so on. As you can see now, you can guess the current system is quite Putrajaya-centric. Only this year they begin to engage with people like Hanafia and Dr. Atato Hanafia and so on, which is a good beginning. Yes. We hope that this kind of engagement will be more and more in future. Next is children's parents also need education.
Yeah.
You see, one good example is parents like to compare performance of public exams. My child has 10 A's, yours 8 A's, so I'm more happy than you. So parents need to be educated on the meaning of exam scores. Number of A's is not everything. It is better to have people who get less A but having a better personality. That's very obvious. So parents need to be educated on the meaning of scores, performance. Also, parents need to be educated on what is education. It's not just exam, but it's also character building, soft skills, and so on. This can be done through public channels. Even people like you can do things like this. Now remember, advertisements that you have seen. There's one that struck me very hardly is a car driver with a truck driver next to him. The car driver thinks that he's very small, very threatened. So the message is, when you drive a car, there is a smaller motorcycle next to you. So please also consider that. So this is one way that parents can be educated through public channels like yours, or even like RTM or other methods. Then we need to have more professional development for teachers. Teacher training need not be a kind of one-size-fits-all thing. For teachers from Sabah, Sarawak, for teachers from rural areas, there should be a different approach. They should be exposed to challenges they may face, and how to handle all those challenges. Infrastructure, we talk about this a lot. Network and all this. And finally, the financial support. I am not sure how money is distributed according to states, but for Sabah and Sarawak, there should be a very different consideration, because we cannot drive our car and attend meeting the next day.
Yeah.
So they involve our time, involve money to fly. So in terms of resource allocation, human resource, and as well as financial resource, there should be a totally different formula for Sabah and Sarawak.
Yeah. So, Prof, picking up on that, because this was exactly what we talked about in the last episode, which is experimenting with models that works for us in particular, right? Yeah. And obviously, since we have from the Secretary from a ministry that has innovation in the name, we're talking about innovative practices, innovative ideas of how we can push the educational sector to, because like you said, not the mentality of straight A's is not guaranteed for successful lives. It's this whole Asian parenting method. It's like you have to work like a robot. Once we autonomize things, right? What does your robotic methodology teach you in here, right?
Yeah.
So maybe there's a question for both of you here. Is that like you said, our own capacity as well. So in that way, how can we be innovative with our own educational pathways or sector? Because let's say that we get it, right? Let's say education is handed over to us. But are we ready for a model that can really be tailor-fit for the Saban context? Maybe I can start with you first, Prof.
Okay. We are doing quite well actually, the country, but if we receive autonomy in education, the existing system can be continued with some modification. As I said just now, more local indigenous elements. Also, overall in Malaysia and also in many other countries, we are too much focusing on exam scores. So I think that we have to consider. We need to move our focus to other areas of human development. Of course, with the advance of technology, AI, and so on, this is a goldmine in terms of resource. We should be spending a lot of resources on how to engage AI as a tool for educating our children.
Oh, well, what do you call it? When you talk to innovations, we need to frame our approach first. So once we identify to frame an approach, you need to actually find the root cause of all these challenges ahead of you. And only after you can frame the appropriate or competent approach, then you will focus your innovation or R&D towards how to resolve that. what we have currently is we are targeting. Well, just to give you a certain aspect or one of the context of what I'm saying, maths, for example, we just learned that mathematics needs to start at the very earliest age. What has been going on right now, I think they only start with mathematics at primary 4 or something. That's a bit late, apparently, and we didn't know that. It has impact towards higher advanced. As we talked about earlier, this is probably one of the reasons why most of our students are not keen to enter into pure maths stream, because they are weak in the ad maths side. Apparently now we're moving closer and earlier in age. We even talk about Taska tadi preschool. So now looking into preschool, a number of things there, English as well, and also mathematics. These are the two focus area. We are doing some pilot at the moment. It's online and offline education where the students, the kids will be continuously engaged into this education even at home, with the parents and the teachers involved. So it needs to be constantly there. This is to gear up. It gets easier towards the primary level stage. From there, we'll come up with another innovation how to prep them for secondary level and so forth. But the important thing to do is one thing to realize right now, globally, everyone seems to be moving towards vocational training. It's not really focusing on academic. When I first reported duty to this ministry, I was visited. There's a courtesy call from UK Civil Service College. It's headed by the members of the House of Lords lah. What they mentioned to me is they have migrated into so much. When the criteria to accept. See, this UK Civil Service College, the function is to frame a criteria what kind of civil servant they want to be in the service. So your PhD, so whatever your academic qualification, it's not so important for them. If you haven't, it's a bonus, but they still ask, what is your vocational experience? Where have you been all this while? Have you, and how many years? So that's why TVET is on the rise. He shared with me, if I remember correctly, is that the reason of this migration is because there's a study done about a lot of our strategic planning. The world is not getting any better. All the while is being led by the PhDs. The joke started that way. And the world is not getting any better. You have famines, you have wars coming, something wrong with the economic, the geopolitics is not going very healthily. So what they detected is every study will involve the social aspect of it.
Yeah.
They call it the social impact studies. It's just one component about a big study scope. What they detected there is the methodology adopted by consultants. I've seen this myself. What they do is they will alert the villagers, look, we're coming down here. There will be a town hall. Please come there. And then they will give a brief to the villagers that we are undertaking these projects for you. And then it's going to take about 4 hours session maybe. And then they will leave a form there. So the villagers will have to, fill in the form. We'll come back to you in the next 1 or 2 weeks. Now, one PhD lady, I think a professor in Sarawak, I cannot remember her name. Her video went viral actually. She was attacking net methodology.
Oh.
She's saying that's not the way you do social impact studies anymore. Let me ask you, how did you frame the Q&A? Where did you get this Q&A from? Is it from Burma or something? You need to know that particular kampong, she said. So she was proposing it needs to be done where the consultants have to stay in that kampong for a few weeks, live with the villagers, and then frame the Q&A. You don't come in and adopt some Q&A from somewhere you pick, So the donation there is very much vocational experience, reality. So this is the a lot of migration going on right now. We are trying to see what's suitable for Sabah. Globally, I mean, even the States is doing it, Australia. So we're trying to adopt which is suitable for, you don't simply copy paste some of the thing. You need to understand your local demography and challenges lah. So at the moment, we're targeting a preschool. At the moment, if it works, it may expand further. So this is part of the innovation exercise we have.
Yeah. All right, Dato and Prof, the last few minutes that we have on this podcast, I would like to ask the question to both of you. From administrator and practitioner, what is your hope and aspiration for Sabah, especially in education? Few minutes.
You want to start first? Or?
Okay, I can start first.
Okay, Prof.
If we watch the news, I think we have many people winning awards nationally, even globally. So what I want to point out is we have a lot of talents here in Sabah. There may be other hidden talents which were not discovered. So I think having a better hand on our children here, I think it will provide a better education for people in general. And we should be able to provide a more relevant kind of education to them, and which is good for the state.
How about you, Dato?
Well, the trend globally in every sectors I've seen is increase of collaboration. You need strategic planners. You see, collaboration brings in reality. And you can assess if the worry is about preserving, personal identification, national identity, for example, is not going to be jeopardized just because you have a global context about it. So, I would say we need to have more liberal approach and have a more competent way of assessing and not too much being dictated by certain aspect of thinking. It needs to be more cordial. Data, I would say sometimes human cannot agree. So we are developing an AI to make the decision for us. and then no pointing fingers after that. Yeah. So that's my target is more collaboration and have more strategic partners in. I welcome all of them to come and see us in the ministry.
Not competition, but collaboration.
Collaboration, complementing each other.
Well, I mean, collaboration like this, where we talk about these ideas.
This is one platform. Yeah.
Great. So I think before we wrap up, Hafiz, we had quite a lot of input from practitioner and administrator. What do you think so far?
I think there's a lot of challenges, but I think in all industry players also they have solutions at hand. It's just a matter of timing and methodology to implement them. So I think if Sabahans out there then think that none of us doing anything about any of your problem, rest assured that all our administrators, practitioners already have the solution, and it's just about to implement the right way so that it can be sustainable in the future. Interesting.
Definitely, because we want to see what's going on in Sabah. We want to see the improvements of Sabah. And these kinds of talks that we have, practitioner and administrator, shows that concerted efforts are being made. Innovative approaches as well. You approaches that focus on collaboration and cooperation one another. So I'm very glad to have these two fine gentlemen here to illuminate us with this. And speaking of collaboration and innovation, where's a great place to do such a thing, Hafiz?
Oh yeah. Where else? Yeah.
Right here
At the American Green Corner. This is where you want to be if you want to do any collaborations about, doing media or brainstorming ideas. This is the place that you can go to it.
Yeah, the American Green Corner at the Sabah State Library. With that, this ends the second episode of our 8-episode podcast series, which is a collaboration between us at Kopitiam Council and the Sabah Action Body Advocating Rights Group, also known as SABAR. This series is called Voices to Action. And we be rest assured we will have more conversations such as this with a variety of experts in the near future. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned on our YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And if you like short form content, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok. That said, thank you. Goodbye for now.
See you then.